Hello, I'm Kimberly.
I'm Medha.
I'm Ariel.
I'm Jillian.
And today we'll be demonstrating and walking you through our online version of the dice game Pig. The instructions for this game are pretty simple. 2 players take turns rolling 2 sets of dice and have the option to roll as many times as they want. Each time they roll, the sum of the numbers they roll are added to the turn total. However, if a player rolls a single 1 at any time, their turn total becomes 0 and it's the next player's turn.
The first player to get to 100 points wins the game. Let's have a live demonstration with our very own Kimberly and Ariel. I wrote the roll function that rolls 2 dice and assigns each to a random number between 1 and 6. Whenever the roll button is pressed, an array of 2 random numbers between 1 and 6 is generated. Depending on the numbers generated in the random array, each die then displays its corresponding number from the random array, and the values from the random array are assigned to variables dice1 and dice2. Along with this, I implemented all our functions into the GUI. Once all our team members had completed their functions, I restructured the functions so the GUI would work properly when used. I also wrote the message box function that displays the instructions on how to play Pig. I put this in the opening function so that the message box displays when the GUI is first run.
My contribution to this project was implementing the audio file which created the sound effects, creating the score total function, and creating the turn total function. For the audio file, I found a clip of a dice being rolled online and used the audio read function to plot the frequencies of the clip. I then used the sound function to play the function as the roll button was being used in the GUI. I did this by adding my lines of code underneath the callback function for the button. I also created the turn total function, which took 2 inputs, dice2 and dice1, and added them together as the user used the roll button, implementing the single 1 function as well, so that the turn total was equal to 0 if a user rolled a 1. Finally, I helped create the score total function, which is added to the score total GUI text box. This simply added the total values from each of the user's turns. I implemented the 00 function as well, so the total score went down to 0 if a user rolled a 00.
I designed the GUI. I made the dice push buttons so they can display the actual pictures of dice faces.
The components displaying the player whose turn it is and the score totals are static text fields, and every other component in the GUI is a push button. I changed the colors of the roll and end turn buttons and the score boxes using the MATLAB Inspector menu. The GIF file that plays once one player achieves a score above or equal to 100 was implemented with the WinOpen function. This function opens the saved file using the appropriate Windows player and only works on Windows computers like the ones in lab. I also worked on the case in which the player rolls 2 ones. If this happens, the player's turn ends and their score reverts to 0, unlike if they roll 1-1. If that happens, their turn simply ends and they get to keep their accumulated points.
I worked on the turn total function, single one function, and scripted the YouTube video. The turn total function used a mod function to determine which player's turn it was, and if-else statements to determine what to do if the dice were ones or any other number. In this function, I summed up the total of the dice each roll, and if a die were 1, then the turn total equaled 0. And if both dice were 1, then the player's overall score was 0. I also worked on the single one function. This function set the turn total to be 0 if one of the dice landed on 1.